Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Joni Misiak. Today, I would like to talk about yoga and how different it is than what I thought it was. So if you've been listening to other episodes, you might have heard me say that I went to yoga teacher training in the month of February. And oh my goodness, I learned so much about myself, about yoga, about life. And so today I'd like to share about what I learned with yoga because it is not what I thought it was. Now, you might be thinking, what does yoga have to do with loving myself? It means so much. So hang on, stay with me while I share with you what I've learned about yoga. Because yoga for me was, doing the asanas on the mat, showing up and doing, cat-cow, downward facing dog, mountain pose, all those wonderful postures, right? Well, it's just a very small aspect of it. And I just want to break it down a little bit for you. So first off, the word yoga in Sanskrit means to yoke or to reconnect. So that is the word in Sanskrit. And then also my biggest takeaway when I did yoga teacher training was this. You don't do yoga, you are yoga. So it's really connecting to your true essence, your true self. And I was just like, wow, no wonder I was drawn to yoga in general, like way back. And it's kind of actually what started me on my self-love journey. And it I already was kind of working on myself. And then I found yoga because at first I resisted it for a few years, at least a few years, going like, I don't have time to lay down in Shavasana. I'm like, who has time for that? And then I embraced it and I really started to get to know myself. So understanding that yoga helps connect to who we are, reconnect. I was like all the dots were being put together. I had all these dots on a piece of paper going like, why am I, taking a yoga teacher training course? Why am I so drawn to teaching and sharing this as a self-love coach? And I just all things self-love, right? And I was just like, wow, it all was coming together. Like this makes so much sense. And it makes so much sense on my own personal journey as well. Now, I actually was practicing Ashtanga yoga, and it is also known as the 8-limb yoga. So it was really, really neat to learn and experience all that because then it really does show the different aspects of what yoga is. And asana, so the postures, are really just 1/8 of this whole thing. And I'm not going to go crazy into detail, but there's ones where it's, so you have ones like the don'ts, do no harm. So it's how you treat others. And so it's also known as yama, the ethics. No steal, do not steal and things like that. So it's what we don't want to do to others. And then there's niyama, and it's self-discipline. So it's the things you do for you to take care of your own being. So it's like self-study and inner, outer body purification and things like that. So it's in that area. And then, of course, then you have the asanas, which is the postures, the practice of the body. Pranayama, which is breathing. And it is a huge, huge aspect of Ashtanga yoga where you're actually doing the postures with the breath, which is called ujjayi breathing. So it really heats up the body, and you can really and it just helps with it helps the body detox and clean out things as well because you're sweating and warming your body at the same time. Anyways, I'm not going to go too crazy into all this, but I just wanted to share the 8 limbs because it is fascinating. But it's also knowing that it means to really connect with yourself. And it's really beautiful. So after breathing is pratyahara. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. I'm still learning the skittish words. It also means withdrawal of senses. So it's loosening our grip, which is something I'm really trying to do. I've always been a planner, and for the longest time I had this need to control things. I'm really working on letting go and just kind of surrendering to what is and letting life happen the way it should instead of me trying to force it. So I'm really been working on that. And it's really where, is a journey from the outer world of the ego to the inner world of the soul begins. So that's where that is. And that's something, like I said, I've been really trying to work on myself. Even before learning the aspects of it, I've been doing some of it. So it was just really nice to learn how it all works together. And then you have concentration. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that skittish word right now. I think it's dhyana. And it's the ability to direct the mind and just hold, like, focus on a single thing. And then you have meditation. For me, I knew meditation, was practiced with people who do yoga, but I didn't realize how intertwined it was. I knew you'd be on the mat, you can meditate, but I always kind of put those two things separate in my world, realizing now that they all interlink and are one. And then you have bliss, like just at the end, samadhi, which is absorption, where it's like, it's just that state of like divine bliss. Like you just feel so comfortable. And that's all we're all trying to get there. And like my teacher mentioned, you don't have to like work forever and ever and ever, not get there. You can have little moments of that throughout your day, your life, when you're just watching the sunset and you're just at complete bliss, like just in awe of the universe and all the magic. It's when we let down our guard, of I need to do this, I need to do that. And like we're getting out of our head and going into our heart and just really being in that present moment and tapped into just life itself and all the magic that's already around us. And the more you practice yoga, the more you can get that more. Anyways, so I just wanted to go through the 8 limbs really quickly. Hopefully I did kind of go quick. I didn't want to, I don't want to bore you and like have a lecture on yoga today. The concept I really want to remind you is because it's this thing, like the moment my teacher said it, I was like connected to this and I latched onto it for the whole course. You don't do yoga, you are yoga. So if you've been struggling with your practice on the mat, that's okay. Start looking at it as it's one aspect of it. Maybe show up for yourself in a different way. Maybe start reading a book about yoga and I don't mean like the asanas. I mean the history of yoga. There is so much there and it's just so beautiful. Or find a movie, a documentary. I was so fortunate to watch some of those in my yoga teacher training. Like I said, my teacher worked with some of the most amazing people in India. And I'm just so grateful that she came into my world. And it's actually amazing what happens with life when you're listening. Like this popped up, this course, and I was just drawn to her. I heard of Ashtanga yoga, but I just thought it was like, okay, it's just another, there's flow and there's just all these different types of yoga. And I thought it's just another one. I'm like, yoga's yoga. You're just doing different things with the postures and it's, there's restorative yoga and different things like that. So I didn't really know exactly what I was getting into. I did do an online yoga teacher training, before the world took a little detour and things closed up. So I kind of, anyways, so because I had young kids at home. So I was just, anyway, I was also going to do an in-person one, but at that time we were debating on moving across the country. So that's why I landed on an online course. But doing something in person with a teacher that learned from some of the, like, wow, in India, like it's just so incredible. And it wasn't just like a year she goes and she's still going back. And it's just, she lives it and it's so beautiful. But anyways, I digress. So if you're finding that it's challenging, I don't want to discourage you from doing the asanas on the mat. The thing is, though, if you're struggling, it's maybe finding your why. Why do you want to practice yoga? What are you doing with the asanas? And maybe just grabbing a different aspect of it so you can reconnect to that later. So there are all these beautiful puzzle pieces. And maybe one's not working for you right now. You have to find the other one first. Maybe you have to find the edge pieces or the corner pieces so that you can really connect yourself to it. And it might be understanding the philosophy of yoga and really finding yourself on the mat, off the mat, reading beautiful books about it. There's, wow, I own a lot of yoga books now. Not gonna lie. I could have a bookshelf, at least a whole shelf on a bookshelf for my yoga books because there's so many out there. But knowing it's not just about your mat and showing up in that way. Yes, there's physical aspects of it. And actually, with Ashtanga yoga, it's about practicing 6 days a week. That's the discipline part. And it's under niyamas for self-discipline, right? It's showing up on the mat 6 days a week and incorporating breathing and meditation in there as well. And then there's always that self-study, constant learning, something I've always done anyways, but even just immersing myself more in learning more about yoga. For me, it will be pronouncing the Sanskrit words because they're a little challenging for me. The other thing I found challenging at the beginning was chanting. We did a lot of chanting. And for I think the first 2, possibly even 3 weeks, I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I can't remember anything. And by the end, my family came for the graduation and we're on the ferry and the kids are a little restless as we get back into the car waiting for the ferry to dock and let us off. And I was like, guys, let's chant. So we broke out in a chant. Loka samasta suki nu bhavantu. And it was just so beautiful, like, because my oldest loves to sing. So it was perfect. And we're just singing at the top of our lungs. And it was just beautiful. But my first week, we get right into chanting. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And I did not sign up for this. I thought chanting was different. Anyways, it's a whole other topic for another day. But I had a hard time with, it was 3 words, or was it 4? So the first week, we learned a simple chant, 3 words. And then people were starting to go around and they were nailing it. It sounded amazing. And I just didn't want to do it. And I was the last one. And I had such a hard time because I have a hard time learning sometimes. And it was literally day 1, I believe, it was the first full day. So day 2. And I was just overwhelmed by everything. And my brain could say it in my head, but to let my mouth say it was not happening. And it was Sthira Sukham Asanam. So now I can say it. So if you're struggling ever, just know that eventually you can get it. So what I did was, it was an intense Monday to Friday. It took over 4 hours to get there every Monday. And, check-in was around 1:00 in the afternoon. But to catch the ferries in time, because I had 2, I had to leave the house at like 20 after 7 and then take 2 ferries to get there. And I was just exhausted. And then, we'd start at 6:30 the next day and go all the way till 9:30 at night. So my weekends were a hot mess of balancing things, being with my kids and and studying. But after that first weekend, I just spent the whole day chanting, trying to get it. And I finally got some of them, and I had my kids involved too, but it was a real struggle for me. So the self-study for me will be practicing the Sanskrit. So I know the words in a different, because I want to. I don't have to learn that, but I do want to learn that. And actually, that chant that I just said, Sthira Sukham Asanam, means steady and then sweet or joy and earth connection. So it's really beautiful. They all mean something. So the moment I finally let go of me not being able to chant it and kind of embrace what it meant and the magic of it all, I can enjoy it a lot more. So I'm sharing this story with you because yoga is beautiful. And it's not just happening on the mat. It's happening all around you. You can choose to go out there and, love others or harm others, right? And it's just about showing up and be like, I am going to, it's nonviolence. And it's just really about how to live your life. And it's just this really beautiful thing that it's not just happening on the mat. It's who you are. It's who your true self is. And by doing all these beautiful things, the 8 limbs of yoga, you're really reconnecting to who you are. And like I said, that is how I started finding myself in, 2007 or 8. I believe 2008. I have to look back, but I believe it was 2008. The beginning of 2008 is when I decided to take a yoga class and figure out what it was all about. And then, of course, not all the aspects were in there. However, through the years, I have discovered them on my own in a way, possibly just by finding myself, I leaned on all these other aspects. So it's been really beautiful. So know that if you are practicing yoga, like the asanas, that's totally awesome. And that's a really good start. It's just knowing that that is one small, beautiful aspect of yoga itself. And knowing that if you're struggling on the mat, it's okay. It's only one small aspect of yoga. And it's just really about having fun with it, getting on the mat and exploring. So it's like, okay, maybe you're not feeling good today. Why not? And it's just showing up and being playful and using it as this way of discovering who you really are. It doesn't have to be this hard and fast thing. Now, for me, my practice does happen 6 days a week. Doesn't always happen. I also have heavy periods, so I take days off for that. But it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and being you, and then getting to know yourself better, and then showing up, the best you can every day. And every day is going to look different. We've talked about this numerous times, where your best will look different depending on your day. Because, some days are, you're sleep deprived, didn't have a good night's sleep. Maybe you do have your period. It's just you're not your best today, and things like that. So it's about showing up where you're at, and then really going on this adventure to get to know yourself better through these beautiful 8 limbs of yoga. I hope this has helped you kind of, take a little different view of yoga. Maybe you already knew it, and awesome. You were ahead of me in the game. And it's just really about, just learning more. I love learning. I'm a lifetime learner, and I don't see myself ever stop learning, because I'm always constantly learning more about myself, about life, about just overcoming obstacles, and it's really beautiful. And when we're learning, we're growing, and it's just this gorgeous, beautiful thing. And I actually have the 8 limbs of yoga in my office as a tree, because it really does to me represent a tree of growth. As you're doing all these limbs, you're continually growing as a human being, and just being your best self at the same time. And it's just this really beautiful thing. So, if you practice yoga, go out and try something a little different. Maybe, read a yoga book. Maybe your library has some, or, lean more into meditation. Anyways, I encourage you to go on an adventure and just get curious about the other aspects of yoga. And then also be reminded that yoga, you don't have to do anything. Yoga is already who you are. So go inward and discover exactly what that means for you. I thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful for you and for listening. And I'm so incredibly happy that you showed up for you, and that you're taking the time to listen here. And thank you so much. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.